Two founders can sell the same exact thing. One struggles to charge 300, but the other confidently charges 3,000 and people happily pay. Now, the reason isn't because one is better, but because one is believed. Implying that before someone gets to pay a premium price, they need to believe in a few things. Because if they don't, the conversation shifts to becoming more of a discount conversation. So if you're a founder or a solopreneur and you're constantly hearing, can you lower the price? That's more than I expected. Or let me just think about it. This video is for you. Because most of you founders think you have a pricing problem. But in actual sense, what you have is a belief problem. So in this video, I'm breaking down 5 beliefs every premium buyer needs before price ever feels obvious to them. A while ago, I noticed something, and founders would come to me frustrated. They would come in lines of, people keep rejecting my price. My market is too price sensitive. No one wants to pay. But when I looked closer, obviously based off experience, I noticed that price wasn't the issue. The issue was buyers hadn't reached that point where the asked price made total sense to them. I mean, come to think about it, nobody complains a parachute is expensive when they're falling from a plane. Just like nobody complains a surgery is expensive when they're facing a life-threatening situation. Why? Because the value is so obvious, the problem is expensive, and the consequences are clear. Maybe a throw-in tip I can give you here is that people don't buy prices, they buy into beliefs. So take note of that. Now, what I've also come to realize is that most founders accidentally get to create discount conversation without them realizing it. It's funny because the reason isn't because they're charging too much, but because they haven't yet answered the questions the buyer is silently asking. Among of which these questions are, can I trust this? Do I need this? Why now? Will this really work? What happens if it doesn't? So when any of these questions stays unanswered, the buyer will now get to focus on the only thing that they understand, which is price. And here's a second throw-in tip I can give you. Price objections are usually belief objections wearing a different outfit. So take note of that. It is so important. Anyways, if you ever found yourself in such a situation, here's the shift. You have to come to terms with the fact that premium pricing isn't about convincing people that your pricing is reasonable, but it's about helping people reaching a point where price feels obvious, and that's it. But that only happens if the 5 beliefs are present. So let's break them all down. Belief 1, this problem is expensive. Most founders, especially the new ones, they sell what they do. But what premium founders, especially those with experience, do is that they sell the problem they solve. Because hate it or like it, nobody buys into coaching calls, nobody buys into spreadsheets, and nobody buys into your coaching sessions. So understand that people buy into outcomes, people buy into confidence, people buy into growth, and people buy into relief. So the bigger the cost of a problem, the smaller your price will feel. Meaning that if you're still struggling with low rates, get to do this instantly. Stop talking about your deliverables and start thinking about the consequences. Because when the problem feels expensive enough, the solution eventually becomes valuable on its own. Belief 2, I trust you. Trust shortens sales conversations, but the lack of trust will always get to create negotiations. And when it comes to this point, that is where proof comes in. So this could be in form of case studies, it could be in form of testimonials, it could be in form of client wins, it could also be in form of transformational stories. So if the buyer isn't asking, how good are you? They're instead asking, how do I know this will work for me? And the best answer is provide as much proof as you can. Because the easier and faster you answer that, the easier premium pricing becomes. Belief 3, now matters. Most founders, especially the new ones, explain benefits. Very few of them get to explain the costs of waiting or the cost of inaction. And that's a mistake that makes buyers delay in their buying decisions. Next time, I want you to ask yourself one of these questions. What if the problem continues for the next 6 months? What amount of revenue gets lost? What opportunity disappears? And then lastly, what stress continues as a result of inaction? Because when the cost of waiting or inaction becomes clear, urgency will eventually appear on its own, with no fake countdown timers ever required. Belief 4, not everyone gets access. Scarcity isn't about being manipulative, it's about being selective. So those things of, I'll work with anyone, they make you sound desperate. But here's what's better. I only work with founders who meet specific criteria. At least now, that sounds more valuable than the previous one. So throw a bonus tip 3 for you is that premium pricing feels easier when it is earned and not when it is available for everyone else. Belief 5, I won't regret this. Every buying decision contains fear. the buyer is always wondering and asking themselves, what if I make the wrong decision? So as a founder, yes, you who is watching this, your job is to eliminate this risk. And you're going to do this by executing on the one most important thing, which is making the alternative feel more riskier. And the best way you're going to make this successful is by you asking yourself one question. If this problem stays unsolved for 6 more months, what does that cost you? Now notice this. Suddenly you're going to make your client realize that the biggest risk isn't buying, but staying where they exactly are 6 months from now. And by the way, here's where most founders get stuck. Deep down themselves, they know that the problem isn't the buyer, but the problem is they themselves, because they're nervous sharing their prices, they're unsure of the value that they create, and they're always hoping instead of believing in what it is that they do. And trust me, buyers can really sense that shit. And so as a founder, if you sound so unsure about your prices, even your buyers become unsure too. And maybe a final throw bonus tip for you to have is that premium pricing isn't just a market problem, it is a confidence problem. And that the market rarely pays premium pricing to founders who don't believe in their own value. I know this because over the past few years, the founders I've seen make this biggest pricing jump didn't suddenly become 10 times, 20 times better overnight. They worked on changing something, and the thing they worked on changing isn't anything else. It is that they changed how they position their value. They stopped leading with deliverables and started leading with outcomes. They stopped defending their prices and started reinforcing the value that they created in the marketplace. And when those two things happen, their sales conversations and conversions changed. Now notice this, all these changes happened not because their market changed, but because their buyer beliefs for their clients changed. So if you remember anything from this video, please let it be this. People don't pay premium pricing because your offer is expensive. They pay premium pricing because your value is obvious. And when buyers believe that their problem is expensive, that they trust you, that now matters, that not everyone gets access, and that they won't regret this, your pricing becomes dramatically easier. Why? Because premium pricing isn't created by the number, but it is created by the belief that existed before you revealed that number. If you're watching this and you're not sure whether your pricing reflects what you're worth, that's exactly what we walk you through in our school community called the Price Clinic. It is free to join, and it is where you're going to build your belief framework behind your price. I'll be leaving a link to it in the description and in the pinned comment. Please check it out.